Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this lesson, which is talking about the chemistry of life. So, let's start what we need to know in this lesson. In this lesson, we need to know first the main difference between the word atom and the word molecule, and what are the important elements of the human body. And also, we have to know the four molecules that's making the life. The first thing is the difference between the word atom and the word molecule. But first you have to know that everything around us is made up of cells, and the cells are made up of atoms and molecules. But no, not all the atoms are the same. We have different types of atoms around us on the earth. Okay, so let's take example for the elements that are known as the elements around us. It's like oxygen, like the carbon, like the hydrogen, like nitrogen, and calcium as well. So when they are single product, not mixed to anything, it's a pure form. I say oxygen only, I say carbon only, I say hydrogen only. These are element in its pure form. But when it's mixed to another thing, it's called compound. So when I say carbon dioxide, it's compound because I'm talking about two different elements. When I'm talking about H2O, which is water, it's a compound, it's not an element. Element is the pure form of the substance. When I say hydrogen only, when I say oxygen only. So this is the main difference between element and compound. And the element in its pure form is called the atom. And when we have different mixed compound, this is maybe the molecule, okay? We have 6 main elements that makes up the human body. Oxygen, mostly like 65%. We have carbon, we have hydrogen, and also we have nitrogen and calcium and phosphorus. Okay, so let's start about the 4 important molecules of life. Firstly, the first one is the lipid, the second one is the carbohydrate, the third one is the protein, and finally it's the nucleic acid. So let's say them again. We have 4 molecules basically of life: the carbohydrates, the proteins, the lipid, and the nucleic acids. So let's see the importance of each one. Let's talk about the lipids. The lipids, it's a fat molecule that is storing the energy that the organism can use when they need. So the lipids, it's a form of fat that's storing energy inside the cell so the organism can use the cell when they need it. Okay, we can get the lipids or the fats from olive oil, from fish, and we have many sources for the fats like the oils and so on. This is the healthy fats. Let's go for the protein. First, you have to know that the protein is made up of smaller molecules that's called amino acids. So imagine that a protein is a large chain, is a large thing. It's a small subunits, it's called amino acids. So when we want to build up a new protein, so we will combine the small amino acids together to make this protein. What's the aim of this protein? It's used to build and repair body structures. So if we are going to repair hurt skin, we are going to need a protein. If you are going to build a thing, we need a protein. Okay? The third thing or the third molecule is called carbohydrates. What's the role of carbohydrates? The carbohydrates, actually, it's the molecules that's including sugar and starch and fibers. And they provide us with the first priority of energy. So this is what provide us with energy along the day. Cells use the carbohydrates to break them down to release the energy from them. We have simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. The simplest as the sugar, it's a small part of a big thing. So the simple carbohydrates is like a table sugar. It's made up of few sugar linked together, while the complex is made up of many molecules that are bonded together, such as the starch. Okay, so let's go for the last thing, which is nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is the DNA. First, you have to know that the nucleic acid is made of small molecules called nucleotide, and the nucleic acid are the molecules that carry information of the cell. Like the DNA is carrying the information that the cell needs to do everything. Okay, the last part in this lesson is talking about the cell membrane. As I told you before, that the cell membrane of the cell is made up of a rigid substance that protects the cell. Now we are going to go through the substance that made up the cell. The cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. Phospho means phosphorus, and lipid means fat, and bi means two, and layer means layers. So it's made up of phospholipid, which is a layer, two layers that are made up of a lipid that's bonded to a phosphorus molecule. So let's have a look at this. So this is basically the two layers that are facing each other. We have for each molecule, it has a head and a tail, The head is the phosphorus molecule, and the tail is the fat layer or the fat molecule. So they are bonded together to make this bilayer, this double layer of phospholipid bilayer. The head is made up of phosphorus, which is loving the water or can react with water. It's called hydro means water, philic means loving. So hydrophilic means loving the water and can react with water. But the fat tail is made up of fats. It's called hydrophobic, and phobic means hate. So hydrophobic means hating the water. So this is how the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane is going to protect and regulate what comes in and comes out of the cell. The last thing is how the cell is going to move the fluids in and out of the cell. We have something that's called osmosis, and osmosis is a process that depends on the concentration of water inside and outside the cell. Osmosis is a type of transport of the water from the high concentrated amount to the low concentrated, which means if I have outside the cell 80% of water and inside the cell I have 10%. So the water will go from where to where? From the high concentration, which is 80, to the low concentration, which is 20. So the water will come into the cell. So let's reverse the option. If we have water inside the cell like 90% and have 10 outside the cell, so the water will move from the high concentration, which is into the cell 90%, to the out concentration out of the cell, which is 10%. So the water will move out of the cell. Okay? So this is three states of the water movement or the osmosis. Isotonic, it's a normal state, it's a balanced state. Hypotonic means that the solution inside the cell is very low, so it will move from high concentration out of the cell into the cell, so the fluid will enter the cell. And hypertonic means that we have very high concentration we have high concentration inside the cell, so solutes will or the solution will move from the cell of high concentration to outside, which is of low concentration. Thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed the session.